Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Lego, and I am the president of the Push for More Corporation. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, and we try to provide mentoring services, inspirational speaking engagements, and recreational activities to youth ages 9 to 18. I am interviewing inspirational people that can make a difference in our youth and make a difference in our community. And today I am interviewing Erin Sinar. She is a mother of 5 and a grandmother to 1 with another grandchild on the way. She has been working as a sonographer for 11 years. She studied ultrasound at the University of Maryland and graduated in 2013. So without further ado, here's Erin. It's nice to see you today. Thanks for doing this for me.
Thanks for having me, John. I'm happy to be here. Happy to help.
Thank you so much. Can you kind of go back in your not maybe not as far as your early childhood, but maybe your teen years, and kind of go forward a little bit, and I'll interject with some questions. And if you can talk to me a little bit about your upbringing, so people know who you are and where you come from.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, I'm a mom of 5. I have 1 2-year-old grandchild and 1 on the way. But growing up, I have 1 brother, 1 sister, and, what most significantly for me in my teenage years, in the summer between my junior year of high school and my senior year of high school, I got pregnant. So that was, life altering, life changing, had to grow up really fast, make big decisions really fast. Struggled with, what am I going to do? I still had 1 year of high school left. What am I going to do after that? How am I going to make this work? Really challenging time, really changed the trajectory of my whole life at that point. So I did end up having her, and I was pregnant throughout my senior year. I was due in April, and we don't graduate till May. So I ended up stopping school in March, and I did school from home. And back then in 1999, we had a phone with the wire connected, and we called in for our classes. And I took calculus for fun because that's, I wasn't your typical, you're a teenage mom. I really, I was kind of nerdy. And I actually ended up being inducted into the National Honor Society, waddling across the stage 9 months pregnant, and graduated on time with my little 2-month-old. So I did that. And then I went to school right after that. But then I ended up getting married and having 4 more children. And then I decided to go back to school for ultrasound. And I worked in a hospital setting for the first 10 years, which was great. I got a lot of experience. I worked downtown. I loved being in that setting where I was able to help those that really needed me. And then I was able to find a place where I was able to work where I can help people in my similar situations. I now work at a crisis pregnancy center where we service women that are pregnant and they're in crisis, right? They were like me, and they're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? How am I going to manage this? Not just throughout the pregnancy, but after. And so we see people trafficked, they're not from this country. They don't speak the language. We see people that have been raped, a lot, just people who are in crisis, and I'm able to relate to them from my experiences and really be able to serve in that way. Really makes a difference to me to be able to help them in that way, because I didn't have that. I didn't have a program like your push program. I didn't have anything like that. And it would have made such a big difference for me when I was young.
So you talked about getting pregnant in high school.
Yeah.
What got you through that? What was your, was it people? Was it, studies, teachers? What was your push to get through that?
Great question. I would say family first and foremost. My brother and sister were there for me. I didn't have a professional mentor that I would have loved to have in that time. Someone who'd maybe been in my shoes. I didn't know anyone that had been in my shoes. And just doing my own research, and just one thing that I'll say about myself is that I'm very persistent. I'm going to push through everything to get to the next step. And for me, I really wanted to be a good parent, a good mom for my child. So I had to find a way to make that happen because suddenly I'm responsible for this little human, and you have to get through.
So you were pregnant and you had the little girl, and what's her name?
Krista.
Krista. And can you talk a little bit about raising a child at such a young age and the trials and tribulations of doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I graduated with her. She was just a newborn, but I did go immediately to college. Okay, and I just went to community school, but I got my degree right away. And some days I was driving her to the babysitter, and that was taking longer than the actual classes I was taking. Right, like just to be able to make sure she was good, and then go to school, and then come back, pick her up, and be a mom. I will say that I feel like for today's youth, if you find something that you are passionate about to learn about, because I don't know that I just did that because I thought that's what you're supposed to do. And it was hard, and I didn't end up using that degree until 10 years later. So, find something that you're passionate about and learn it that's going to move you in the, step forward in the next direction, because education is important, but I feel like it's more important to find something you're passionate about.
I agree. What kind of degree do you have in college?
So I got my AA degree at the community college, and then I went back to school to be for ultrasound school specifically. So my degree is specifically in ultrasound school. Okay.
You explained that you had a heart condition, and you said that it was very challenging for you. We talked off camera, and you said that you were in the hospital with that, and it was a big challenge in your life. So what got you through that? How did you get through that? What's the outcome of this whole thing? If you can talk a little bit about that.
So when I was 18 and I had just had this little baby, she was only a few months old, I was actually asleep, and I woke up from sleep with my heart just pounding and racing, and it was going super fast. And I still lived at home, and my dad thought I was having a heart attack. So we went to patient first, and I walked in and almost collapsed, and they took me right back, and everyone was rushing around me, and the monitor said my heart was going 300 beats per minute, and it couldn't measure more than that. So they turned it off because it was just extreme. And they kept saying, "Stay with us, Erin, stay with us." And in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm right here. What do you mean? Like I didn't realize how serious it was at the time. And then they gave me medication that stops your heart on purpose and then restarts it, and then it clicks back into a normal rhythm and converts back. So from there, I realized something was really wrong. So I got the diagnosis of, it's called Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome. It's a type of SVT, which is a tachycardia. And for a while, we managed it with medication. I did end up having surgery in 2011 to try to ablate the extra electric tissue in my heart, and it wasn't successful. So at the time, I actually started having panic attacks from this whole situation. So your question of how did you manage it? I didn't at first. It was a struggle. I am 18 years old. I have a small child. I'm a single mom, a teenage mom, and now I have this heart condition that's super scary. And I was so worried that it was going to happen while I was driving her and we were going to crash. And so I started having panic attacks. And then I started having panic attacks from being scared of having panic attacks. So for some years, it was tough. It was a struggle. And I tried, going to therapy, and it wasn't working. And it really, how did I get through it? I would say is realizing that after the surgery was unsuccessful, that this was something I was going to have to live with and I would have to figure out. So I just did a lot of soul searching, honestly. Like I needed to live with this and be okay with it. And then after so many years of it happening and hey, I'm still here, then I feel better about it. It just happened last night, and I was sharing it with my brother and sister, and it was just like, oh, this is annoying now because while it is something that is a big deal, and especially when I was young, it's just something that I manage now. So it's what I take from it is that anything that you are going through, even something as big as that and as big of a challenge, you can get through it and you can live a normal life. That's kind of where I'm at with it.
That's great motivation for people because I think there's a lot of people that are going through things that no one knows about. And when you're going through something like that, you feel very alone and insecure. And it's very commendable of you to share that with us. That was very touching. Can you talk about your experience with doctors and nurses that kind of helped you through and dealing with that? Can you explain a little bit about did they help you or how did they help you or emotionally and just by being there for you?
Yeah, I would say, it really did start my love of the field of medicine and being able to help people in that way that they were able to help me, and just educating myself and listening to what they were telling me, and being in the hospital where I had the heart surgery is the hospital that I worked at for 10 years, and later on was the hospital that my daughter got treated for cancer. So it all kind of comes together, and having those kind of people in your life, especially when you're young, is a big deal.
Which leads to the next question about your daughter. Can you explain a little bit about that as much as you would like to?
Sure.
And we can talk about that for as long as you'd like.
Yeah, absolutely. I have no problem speaking on it, and if it can help anyone at all, that's what I'm here for. So about 3 years ago, my daughter at the time was 14 years old, and we were at the beach, and we almost actually didn't go to the beach because our father, so her grandfather, was passing away. My dad, he was very sick at home, and we had this vacation planned, and we almost didn't go because we didn't want to leave him, but we also, needed that break. If anybody's gone through losing a parent or a loved one, and you're the caretaker, you understand what I'm saying. And at the beach, we noticed that while she was laying down, that her belly was really sticking out. And me being in the medical field, knew right away something's really wrong. And we went immediately to the hospital, and they almost didn't take me seriously. And I was like, no, something's really wrong. And so they did imaging and told us that it was most likely cancer, and we needed to go home and take care of it right away. And she ended up having a 23 centimeters, so football-sized tumor in her left ovary, which they removed within 2 days. Because of my connections at the hospital, we were able to get into surgery within 2 days and have the tumor removed. And then she had 3 rounds of chemotherapy, lost all of her hair, all the things. And she grew up really fast too, and she's an amazing human.
No doubt.
And she's in remission for the past 3 years, so it's been awesome.
Wonderful news. Thank you for sharing that with us. So the last thing that I want to touch on before I go into my organization is that you have 5 children, and you have a heart condition, and you have your jobs that you do. And now you talked about you do a little bit with finance.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So when Elena got diagnosed with cancer, actually the day our dad passed away, the very same day, we were actually at the hospital getting an MRI to see if what was going on with her. And while we were in the waiting room, we received the news that he had passed. So the day he passed away was the day she got the diagnosis of stage 3 ovarian cancer. Like, not even kidding. So when our dad was passing away, he needed around the clock home care, and it was astronomical expensive, like thousands a month. And we liquidated whatever we could. And then we got the diagnosis, this cancer diagnosis on top of it. So what did we do? We had to live on GoFundMe at the time. So it became very clear to me that young people especially need financial education. It's stuff we should learn about in high school, and we just don't, right? So I became licensed in the state of Maryland. I'm actually licensed in like 25 states, I think, at this point, to be able to offer accounts to help people with their finances, to protect them from these what if situations like we went through, so that people are never in that position that we were in. So that's really important to me too.
Can you give us a little tidbit of what you do as far as what kind of people you look at, what kind of people can be helped by you, and what you actually help them with?
Okay, yeah. So, like I said, I have protect their people's money from what if situations. I can help them grow money. It's all different types of accounts that are, specific to their needs. Any age, you can have an account as soon as you have a social security number. So like 2 weeks old. I just did an account for a 13-year-old yesterday. All of my children have accounts now. So if something were to happen to them, God forbid, like her sister, Elena's sister, Cecilia, she has an account now. And if something were to happen to her and she got a similar diagnosis, she would have access to almost $300,000 to use for herself for the treatment, instead of having to worry about GoFundMe and all the things that we had to worry about. And that is such a huge relief, for me to be able to help people in that way, help families in that way, all the way up to age, any age, really.
That's wonderful. That's a great addition to your background. So, Erin, you are a stenographer.
Yes.
I think that's awesome because you can find a lot of things in people that may be dangerous to them. So can you tell me a little bit about your experience as a stenographer and what kind of cases you encounter?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, for the first 10 years of my career, I worked in a hospital setting, in the ER, in shock trauma. We saw the craziest of the crazy things. But most recently, for the past 2.5 years, I've been working in a crisis pregnancy center. So these women, sometimes girls, sometimes as young as 13, come in and they're newly pregnant. They just find out that day. And then they come to me for an ultrasound. It's all free. All the services are free. And, I really have to be sensitive to their needs because they're a lot of times in crisis. We have homeless people. We have people who are on drugs. It can be challenging. And so I'm showing them on the screen so they can see on the TV behind me everything that I'm showing them. And I'm showing them their baby. And it can be very emotional for them. A lot of times they are saying, oh my gosh, it has eyes, it has arms and legs. And I'm saying, yes, it does. And that wasn't provided to me when I was 17 and pregnant, and I wish it had been. So it feels really good to me to be able to say, like, this is what's going on inside your body. No judgment, completely neutral, just information, right? And just to be able to show them, the heartbeat and just have that bonding and connection to give them a little bit of hope walking out of there. And then we have advocates who connect them to resources, because we don't want to just say, okay, here's your baby, okay, bye, right? We're going to connect them to resources to help them thrive in the community. Resources like your program to be able to help and mentor them if they are a teenager to get through their situation and be able to have a successful life.
Can you tell me the name of the company and also or the organization? And can you also tell me how long they've been in the community?
Yeah, so we are actually in downtown Baltimore City. Okay, it is the Greater Baltimore Center for Pregnancy Concerns, and they've been around for like 40 years. But the actual building where I work has only been around since 2021. They opened like right when COVID was like at its peak and it was craziness, but they opened. And right now we've seen women from 23 different states and 21 different countries. They come and I don't know how they make it to Baltimore, but they do, and they come see us and we provide these free services to them.
World renowned.
I guess so, yeah.
That's wonderful. And when you talk to these, I guess, youth, are they, what's the age?
I've seen people as young as 13, women as young as 13, as old as 50.
Okay. So when you talk to these patients, What is a good story that you have to tell that you've heard from a patient without divulging any kind of personal information?
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, so many times they come in and they're scared and they don't know what they're going to do. And then they see us, they meet with our nurse first. We have registered nurses, and then sonographers such as myself. We're registered diagnostic medical sonographers, registered in OB/GYN. And we're able to give them this information, talk to them, let them feel heard and understood. And, having them walk out with hope is what really does it for me. And them saying, I feel like I can do this, when they come in and then the world is, caving in on them and they're not sure what they're going to do. And then they leave and they say, wow, I think I can do it. And then they come back with their babies when they're born and they're like so happy and they're thriving. And it's such an amazing feeling.
That's wonderful. That's just a fantastic organization. And thank you for sharing that. So we're going to talk about the push for more. PUSH stands for passion, understanding, sacrifice, and hope. And these words are very important to me, and I think to a lot of people. So can you tell me what the words mean to you? Passion, understanding, sacrifice, and hope, one at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's wonderful what you do and what your organization is doing. Passion, like we talked about earlier, is you really need to have a passion, especially for young people that you're trying to reach, to be able to, so they don't feel lost, when they're feeling like, where do I go? What do I do from here? Even if you're not going through the challenges that I mentioned, and everybody has challenges, but even if you're not, you're like, I just don't know what I want to do with my life. Having that passion is so important. And that's such an amazing thing that you guys can offer. Understanding, being heard. Oh my gosh, what teenager doesn't feel like they want to be heard, right? That's even for me, like that's like the one thing I always wanted when I was younger, especially as a teenage mom, was to feel heard and feel understood. Sacrifice, I mean, gosh, I would say knowing that sacrifices are going to happen, you're going to have to sacrifice, but to get through them is the most important thing.
And I want to touch on one thing really quick. And you're talking about finances and preparing for the future. Some of that is sacrifice as well, to be able to hold money back for things that may come down the line that you're not ready for. And what about hope? What does hope mean to you?
Hope is that light, when everything feels dark. And, even just having that one person who believes in you and you feel that hope that's what that means to me.
Excellent. I think we're going to wrap it up, and I appreciate you doing this for me. I can't thank you enough for taking your day and spending it with us here. If anybody would like to look on my website, it's www.thepushformore.com. And you can contact me through those channels. We have a donation page as well. And we hope to hear from you, because we need good people to help our community. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Push for More podcast. To join our mentor network or appear on the podcast, feel free to reach out to us at thepushformore.com. And if you have the means, please consider making a tax-deductible contribution to help support our mission. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Every little bit helps us push forward.
Round two.